Hello. So I'm Blake Latta. I'm a current junior at the University of South Carolina. I am a public health major and a psychology minor. So I wanted to do my video presentation upon a behavioral um, disorder per se that is very prominent and relevant to many individuals in our society, whether that be directly or nationwide, but also because it's applicable to myself and thought to learn more about it. So I titled it Coinciding Etiological Agents of Attention Deficit slash Hyperactivity Disorder, but mainly wanted to focus on the nature versus nurture aspects of it. So beginning with an overview, what exactly is ADHD? Well, according to the National Institute of Mental Health, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder is marked by an ongoing pattern of inattention and slash or hyperactivity impulsivity that interferes with functioning or development. So this in and out of itself reveals a obvious relationship between the field of psychology and more specifically the I guess you can call it subfield of developmental psychology, as well, as I plan to dive in and observe the nature and nurture aspects that would affect the just the individual's development with ADHD. Continuing on, the National Institute of Mental Health went on to identify and reveal three most prominent patterns, symptoms per se. These are inattentiveness, hyperactivity, and impulsivity. So I thought to supply a solid definition. Inattention means that a person has difficulty concentrating, staying organized, and just issues related with fulfilling a task in a set setting or particular time. Hyperactivity is simply when an individual fidget. They will talk excessively when it is not appropriate. And then lastly, impulsivity is upon when an individual will lack self-control. They may blurt out things. They might they might do things that would be deemed spontaneous and inappropriate. So continuing on with an overview, there is actually three variations. There's the ADHD combined type, there's the ADHD impulsive and hyperactive type, and there's the ADHD inattentive and distractible type. So the most common one is the combined type, and the least is obviously the impulsive and hyperactivity type. And the one that is applicable to my type or variation, I suppose, is the inattentive and distractible. That is the type that I have. That's the one I have. And so, furthermore, I thought to include this to just show the prevalence, of ADHD amongst children in the U.S. So, obviously, there's 61 million children as of 2016 that had a medical diagnosis of ADHD. Furthermore, I wanted to include the percentages of comorbidity as we transition into the basis of the case study that I want to present. So comorbidity is a behavioral disorder or a pattern or characteristic that builds upon ADHD. So, for example, anxiety and depression are pretty prominent, but also just any mental, emotional, or behavioral disorder that builds upon ADHD is 64%. As in, say you have anxiety, but the proportion of its relationship to ADHD is moderately sufficient. and would reveal enough evidence. So continuing on to nature or nurture. So this is what I really wanted to focus on as I explore the case study momentarily. For those of you watching, if you don't mind, list instances that would be of a nurture effect upon one's development, and then likewise for nature, or vice versa. I may have had a little brain fart there. So rhetorically, most know about this very prominent and argued topic. So nurture, well, I'll begin with nature. Nature has to deal with your genetics, your traits, your inherited characteristics from your family lineage. Like, for an example, my mother has brown eyes and I have brown eyes, which is a dominant trait. As well, my mother has ADHD, and likewise I do too. So, and then upon the nurture aspect is what environmental aspects would contribute to causing, per se, this behavioral / developmental disorder. So as I move on to the case study, finally, it's titled "The Nature and Nurture of ADHD and Its Comorbidities: A Narrative Review on Twin Studies," because twin studies are the most prominent and statistically effective study in which one would be able to obtain evidential information, I guess. So this is by, sorry if I butcher these names, they're Italian, not exactly Italian. So Naomi Testarelia, Corrado Fagnib, Miriam Troyalak, Maria Antonetta Stasib, and Walter Adrianib of the Department of Brain and Behavioral Sciences at the University of Pavia. And they conducted this study and combined their specific study with other studies that relate to an extent to get a overall sort of conclusion upon the nurture and nature argument in relation to ADHD and its comorbidities amongst twins. So beginning with their aim, if I haven't made it apparent, so they sought to identify the characteristics prevalent amongst twins, but more specifically, if one twin revealed a comorbidity of anxiety and the other did likewise had it or had a separate comorbidity, could these be tied to a relationship with a mother or father, or could they be of genetic inheritance of if a mother or a father also has ADHD with this specific comorbidity? Moving on to the methodology of this. So as known, they used twins for their study. And they used a type of study in which is of psychopathology. They conducted this using finding twins and then just simply by conducting interviews, questioning their, indirectly questioning their symptoms per se and their relevance, but also conducting a survey, but focused more upon how their physical and psychological characteristics could be read. So as well, they gathered information from the mother or father per se, and then did a comparative cross analysis upon the interview results that they gathered from the direct mother or father, and then how a specific comorbidity was present in one twin, both twins, or maybe not at all if it was something that they did it for most comorbidities. So if one wasn't present, then it could be another one. Sorry, it's very hard to summarize in a simplistic manner. So after conducting their study, they found that there was a high correlation between ADHD and then another behavioral disorder, bulimia. So this isn't a specific comorbidity that was listed on the chart, but it is something that would reveal itself in a direct link to having an ADHD diagnosis. It actually showed that there was a high possibility of correlation between this of ADHD and bulimia caused by common genetic and environmental factors. So it was to an extent inconclusive on which was a more prominent contributor to this correlation. And obviously this would require a ton of genetic research upon which specific chromosome, etc., transferred here. It's more easily identifiable to pinpoint a particular aspect of nurture that would lead to the prominence of bulimia, or another one mentioned was border personality disorder, or in a simple sense, anxiety and depression amongst one twin or the other. It's easier to pinpoint a environmental aspect that would create this developmental disorder. So in terms of concluding and discussing, I personally really enjoyed this research study. However, it was quite unorganized per se, in the sense that they tried to conduct their own study, but yet merge information. It was almost a little bit too much. But in the sense of what I would change, I would stray away from the simplicity of a survey or a census of a particular comorbidity and then relates it back. I think it would be better if doing a simple psychopathologic methodology like that. It's going to be easier more informative to identify twins to which one has ADHD and one doesn't, but pinpoint the ADHD and then identify or attempt to identify a potential comorbidity. And then once identified, furthermore, build upon that in the sense of interviewing the parent in a likewise manner. Sorry, I was probably a little bit confusing. So I'm not sure if I touched upon, I gave my personal opinions just a second ago, but in the sense of future direction and also in relationship to recent literature, I believe that this specific study is going to gain a lot of attention amongst the COVID-19 effects on mental health. I believe that some individuals may not know they have ADHD, but may portray a specific comorbidity that's revealed itself through the lockdowns and quarantines in due to COVID-19, due to like the pandemic. But I think this study reveals a lot of new breakthroughs in understanding not understanding specifically which is more impactful necessarily, whether it's nurture-based or nature-based, but the vast array of comorbidities that are all tied to ADHD. Like for example, anxiety and depression are very prominently known. They're very observed. They're common knowledge per se. However, personality disorders like what was it? Klonginger's syndrome. That is a like temperamental impairity that has a genetically stemmed link to ADHD. So there's a lot of